we were drinking on the golf course.
A couple of beers?
Yeah, can of hole is what we like to do.
This is the Park the Bus podcast with Stephen Caldwell and Kevin Kilbane.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Park the Bus. I'm Stephen Caldwell, this is Kevin Kilbane. And we thought this week, while things are a little slow in the summer, we would talk about pre-season and everything around pre-season and what makes them so daunting in some ways, Kevin, and so great in others. And some of your experiences of pre-season, I want to ask you the first question, get right into it. I want to say, what was your favourite place to go? Where did you enjoy going pre-season most?
I think the one that sticks in my mind the most is when we ended up going to Houston while I was an Everton player. We went to Houston for a week or so. We actually trained with the Houston Texans down there as well, which was quite a good experience while we were down there. And we were under pressure at the time as well. We just finished 17th in the Premier League at the back end of last season. It was a comfortable 17th, and it doesn't sound when you say it, but we'd got our Premier League safety secured well in advance and lost the last 3 or 4 games of the season. So the season finished very negatively. Wayne Rooney was sold that summer after the Euros, so we'd lost our real star, our real big player at the time as well. And David Moyes was under a lot of pressure. So that one, Stevie, stands out to me, the Houston trip. Great trip for everything. And off the back of that season, we played so well. But so much happened on that trip, Stevie, that probably set us up for the season. Did
you have some new players that were bonding into the squad? Or how did it work? Was it a group that had been together for quite some time?
It was such an interesting one. I was saying, Everton was struggling for money at the time. And I'd actually just agreed a new contract. Believe it or not, I spoke to Celtic that summer. Celtic spoke to me slightly illegally, I would probably say. It was off the back of a
legal approach.
Yeah, it was. Well, it was. We played an end-of-season game, Ireland against Celtic, Jackie McNamara's testimonial. And I was summoned up to Celtic's boardroom to meet Peter Lowell, who was the Celtic CEO at the time. And Martin O'Neill was just about to leave Celtic. So that was he can't really call it an official game. It was a friendly, obviously. But that was Martin O'Neill's last game as Celtic manager. And it would be Gordon Strachan that came in, but it hadn't been announced who was coming in. But Peter Lowell said to me, I've got 3 players on my list who who our new manager is wanting to sign. You're top of that list. Now, it was probably a line that he gave me. He knew I was a Celtic fan. He'd probably done a bit of research on me. What does it mean for you to play to Celtic and all these sort of things? And I just said, look, I've agreed a deal at Everton. David Moyes, I've known him since I was 15. He means too much to me. The club now means too much to me. So I've agreed. He went, well, look, we want to sign you. We're desperate to sign you. And that was pulling on the heartstrings because of what Celtic meant to me. That was my team. So anyway, all that aside, we then came back for pre-season training, and there was a negative feel around the club, a real negative feeling, obviously off the back of the sale of Rooney, who we were going to replace Rooney with. And it wasn't a high-profile name. There was a lot of negativity around it. It was Marcus Bent, who you would know, Benty.
I know Benty, played against him a few times.
So we signed Benty that summer as a replacement. I think we paid $400,000 for him from Ipswich Town, which no money considering we got 30 for Rooney. You only need to know the position Everton were in financially. They needed the money, and they went cheap to go and get him. But Benty did a great job for us. Benty was incredible for us for that season. And we went to Houston, and you mentioned the new signings. There wasn't many new signings. Leon Osman was probably one of the younger players who was introduced. He'd been on loan at Derby, had a great time. And Everton didn't have money. Ozzy could have been sold, actually, that summer if we had money available and we could have gone and got 3 or 4 different players. And it turns out Ozzy went on had an amazing career for Everton. But Ozzy came in, and we went to Houston probably off the back of terrible pre-season at the time. We were performing badly. I think we played Burnley. I think it was our last game before we went away. We got absolutely pumped, Stevie. They destroyed us. And there was, again, a feeling around us. We couldn't wait to get out of the country. The following day, we flew out of Manchester Airport, got to Houston.
Nobody knows you in Texas.
Nobody knew us at all. And it was, Stevie, it was an amazing trip. You mentioned bonding. David Moyes, because he was under so much pressure, relaxed a little bit. We ended up going and playing where the Houston Open used to be played. We played golf. We had a golf day, which was beautiful. Texas Scramble. I'm not a golfer, Stevie, so it was more for me.
Texas Scramble in Texas.
Texas Scramble in Texas.
There's
there you go.
It
was amazing. So we were playing golf. we were drinking on the golf course.
A couple of beers?
Yeah, can of Hall is what we like to do. The small cans.
Driving the carts?
Driving the carts.
Any incidents with the carts, with the
not that I recall.
Not
that I recall on that one, no. But we had a good crew. We had a great, I would say, the best group of leaders that I would have played with. Alan Stubbs, Big Dunk. Duncan actually couldn't come with us on the trip because he had a conviction, so he couldn't get a visa to get into the States.
Wow.
So Big Dunk couldn't come with us. But just going back to like Kevin Campbell was with us on that trip, Lee Carsley, Steve Watson, Davy Weir, big characters, great characters. Nigel Martin, another one. Great characters, brilliant players. But we came together at the right time, and it was just an amazing trip, Stevie. That the whole thing around that it was. I would say.
Were you training hard? In the weather,
train extremely hard. We did, and that was the one thing with Moisey. I said he relaxed a little bit in terms of allowing us a bit of freedom, but Moisey never would have relaxed from his methodology of this is how we're going to do it. I think we'd been to Austria a week before that, or a couple of weeks before that.
What a contrast between Austria and the United States of America.
There was no downtime. It was full on.
There's nowhere to go in Austria, is there?
You're up at 7 a.m. running. And again, it was probably a little still a bit Moisey probably still adopted the old school type of pre-season where it was full on running. Where you get up in the morning, you'd have runs, longer runs where a lot of the modern thinking around the game has kind of moved away from that. Really hard training, Stevie, in Austria. So when we got to Houston, and the pressure was on us a bit really going over there, I felt, because of everything surrounding the club. Moisey under pressure, as I said, and with him relaxing, I think it helped us relax, give us that, let's say, a bit of freedom on the golf course. I will tell you off the back of that one, though, we had a funny incident that night, and it turns out how my life actually became, Stevie. It was quite funny, but we stayed in a hotel where there was an ice rink in the middle of... our hotel was joined onto a mall, and in the middle of the mall, there was a huge ice rink. Middle of summer, ice rink. There was no ice rinks where I grew up. I'd never been on an ice rink in my life.
So first time you'd ever been on the ice?
First time I'd ever been on the ice in my entire life.
It's ironic what you became.
Yes, exactly.
Dancing on ice.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, we'll maybe go there one day with that one. But it was so funny. Like we finished up Canna Hall, as I said, on the ice. We ended up going back to the hotel. We'll have a beer. Leon Osman, who I mentioned before, Ozzy was just a little bit. Ozzy said, "Come on, let's go ice skating." So I said, Ozzy, I've never skated in my life.
Let's be clear.
Couple of others.
Ice skating is probably the worst thing for a football player to do with their ankles, with the danger of the ice. The fact he's had never been on it before.
Insurance job, that is a liability. Crazy. Like, honestly. So anyway, Ozzy and I get on the ice. I think Gary Naismith got on the ice with us as well, maybe one or two others. So I get on the ice, Stevie, and I push myself off the boards, whatever, in the middle, fall straight up in the air, land back. Anyway, turns out, obviously, I'm half drunk, maybe quite drunk. Half drunk, quite drunk at that stage.
I'd say you're pretty drunk.
And Stevie, I was crawling off the ice. I couldn't stand up, could not stand up at all. And I'm crawling off the ice. And we had a new doctor that had just come on the pre-season trip with us. So the doctor's going, Killer, what are you doing? Kev, get off the ice. Ozzy's skating round with his hands behind his back, loving the ice.
Was he a good skater?
Ozzy could skate. Yeah. Ozzy was very good.
Right.
So Ozzy was skating round, and I'm, Stevie, literally crawling off the ice. I couldn't stand up. So every time I stood up, I'd just fall over. My arm is pouring blood, like badly pouring blood at this stage. So I crawl off the ice. The doctor's attending to me on the side of the ice, and he's going, "You're a professional footballer, Kevin. What are you doing, son? You can't do these sort of things." Very new, a little bit wet behind the ears. Didn't really know what lads were like when you get away. Anyway, he patched up my arm.
Lucky Moisey wasn't there, eh?
If Moisey was there, we'd have been like in it, honestly.
That would have been the end of the fun.
I
remember
the whole trip. Following day, I'm at training. I've got my arm with a huge band-aid on my arm, covering up all these scars I've got down my arm. But that was my first introduction to being on the rink. But off the back of that, Stevie, that said we trained hard. Really hard, actually. Moisey gave us a bit of time just to relax. We had a round of golf. We were able to walk around a little bit and get out and see a few things, which was great. But it was maybe after that first couple of days after we arrived, it was work. And that was Moisey's methodology, I suppose, as I was saying before, that he didn't go away from maybe the old school. He adopted very much a modern thinking process and how he went about pre-season onwards from that.
Yeah.
And that kind of pre-season for us was a little bit of the old introducing the new a little bit, with a little bit of a night out thrown in. Pre-season always seemed to be about, look, if we work hard,
you get a night out
can we get a night out at the end of it?
Well, there was a pre-seasons where
what
you would
about
get...
you?
Well, pre-seasons, some of them you get one night out at the end, and some of them are just wild, aren't they?
Yeah.
You're out almost every day. You're still training, but you're out every day. And ironically enough, I think back to the contrast to two different pre-seasons. Austria, ironically enough, was organised by Moyes' brother. I went there with Burnley.
He used to organise a lot of our pre-season trips.
So we went to, I forget the
Kenny
name of the
Moyes,
place.
Kenny Moyes.
In the Alps. Steve Cotterill was the boss. And it was just miserable. He was getting us up at 6 a.m, 5K run, breakfast, back on the field, more running, more ball-type running, a little bit of sleep, and then more training
3 times a day,
at 4 p.m. And you're in the Alps, we're in these dorms, miserable, just miserable. You had a bike, you had a forest, you had a lake. It was like there was nothing going on. So Andy Gray, Archie Gray's dad, very good friend of mine, was with me at Burnley at the time. Andy and I were close, and we get these bikes. We're like, we got to get at this resort. We got to get away in these bikes. We get in these bikes. We go down to the local campsite, and there's this little bar, and our eyes light up. We're so happy. We find this bar. We have. This is like the Wednesday, we're leaving on the Sunday, couple of pints in the bar. So we wake up the next day. How good was that? That was amazing. Oh, we got to go again tonight. Don't tell any of the boys. We don't want anyone else to know. We wanted to keep it just for us, you know. We didn't want to get in any trouble. Back again that night, pedal the bikes along, 4 or 5 pints. So wake up the next day, we got to go again. So every day we're just increasing the alcohol intake. And by the third night, the campsite bar ladies, hey, my Scottish friends, invites us in. She start giving us these shots. We have a few more. So this night we're getting back a little late, and as we start cycling back through these roads in the Alps, there's no lights in any of these roads. We're cycling in the dark with about 6 or 7 pints in us in these little alleys. Don't know where we're going, can't see in front of ourselves, but it was the only way we could get through a trip like that. But I think, and the contrast to that is the trips to the United States of America are just unbelievable. We had some of the best trips ever to the US. I think the one that springs to mind for me is California. We went to Ventura County. So we're up a little higher than Los Angeles, but we had these trips back into LA, and we go for a walk on the first day. My crew was Michael Duff, Stevie Jordan, Robbie Blake and myself.
What a crew that.
What a great guys.
I know 2 of those guys actually quite well. I did my coaching badges with Michael Duff, so I know what Duff was all about.
Great boy. He was my roommate,
Duffer. With Jordan at Huddersfield.
Right, okay.
So I know what
Stevie
he's all
was
about.
crazy.
Stevie Jordan, I know
Stevie
what
was crazy. Blakey and Stevie were roommates. Duffo and I were roommates. We were car school mates, and back in the day we'd change at Turf Moor and we'd go to the training ground, so we were in the same car school, and we'd go out for a walk, and we stop at Starbucks, we get a little drink, and we're having, trying to play it sensible, and we walk round and we see this biker bar. Honestly, it's unbelievable. It's something out of a movie. So Blakey's like, let's get into the biker bar, we'll have a pitcher of beer. First afternoon. We go into this biker bar and we start having a couple of beers. We were there every night for the rest of the trip. It was unbelievable. The boys would come. We had 4 or 5 nights out on that trip. Owen Coyle was incredibly relaxed. He loved the bonding. We'd start training every day. We'd have double sessions every day. We'd start the first one and Coyle would say, Skipper, come over here.
Did Owen Coyle know, the manager?
Yeah, he knew we were going out. He didn't mind. As long, if Owen said you could go out, and he gave you a curfew, as long as he knew where you were and you stuck to the curfew, and he entrusted me as his captain to make sure that worked.
Curfew must have been broken a few times, surely.
A few times. One time he got told the curfew was broken by friends of his in the hotel, and he was fuming, and he pulled me, and I actually wasn't out that night, believe it or not. But
get out of it!
I wasn't. And he pulled me, and he was fuming. He wanted to cancel all the nights out because they had broke the curfew. I said, let me deal with it, and I went and spoke to the guys. What are you guys doing? Like, he's given us the free rein of the place. Don't abuse it, you know. So I had to go at the guys, but what a laugh. Blakey almost got arrested one night for like messing with a policeman, with a cop. It was so funny. So that the US trips I always found them to be incredibly great for team bonding, for being in an environment where nobody knew who you were, that you could, let your hair down a little bit. You had the cinema, you had the Starbucks, you had the night out, you had the bar, you had kind of everything. And the tip at your fingertips to actually go and enjoy, as well as the training. Obviously, training's important in the matches, but more that bonding to come back into a Premier League or a Championship season. It's invaluable, isn't it?
No, it is. Another one that stands out to me, Stevie, as well, was actually the season after that. I think it was the introduction, the first year of, do you remember the Premier League trophy that you used to have in the Far East?
Yeah.
So we were in Bangkok, so we're in Thailand.
Right.
And we went to Thailand. We had our sponsor was a beer sponsor at that time.
Let me ask this though, but just as we went on about Austria and the US, how did you feel going to the Far East? Because I hated it. You couldn't sleep, eh?
Well, flying this way around the world was easier. I always felt an easier transition to come back to. When we went that way, obviously flying east it felt different to us, and getting back, it was more coming back from it that we were so tired coming back off it because we'd lost sleep travelling. So we'd lost time travelling because obviously we're going ahead. So this was the problem that I think we found when we got out to Bangkok. We were struggling really to cope with that, I think. Yeah. But again, we made our own fun, I think, when we got there as well. It was a bit more professional because we had games there, I think.
Yeah, and there was a bit more scrutiny. I had one of them in Malaysia.
They were live on TV,
we had Birmingham, Chelsea, I think the Malaysian national team and Newcastle United. And I think it was the first Premier League.
You might have been in the first. It was definitely.
But there was more scrutiny on their trips, wasn't there?
There was, because you were live on TV back home, and that was the problem. So all the Evertonians were watching the game. If they couldn't make the trip, they were watching the game. So I think we had Man City on that trip with us, maybe Newcastle, and then we had a local team, whatever it would have been, who it played. So, but we get there, and again, the lads are itching to get out and do something. We're not really allowed out. You've got your first game. After the first game, I think Moisey let us out. And interestingly, we go out into Bangkok. Obviously, our first experience of Bangkok, getting out. So we ended up in a bar. Needless to say, we're in a bar. Lads having a few beers, and there was a battle of the mic competition on in the bar that night. So anyway, lads are sat round in the bar, and there's a guy gets up and he's rapping away, whatever it would be, doing battle of the mics.
He's cheering and stuff.
Right, so of course you were. You're getting involved in it then. No word of a lie. 10 minutes later, iced tea comes out. The iced tea.
No way.
Iced tea. We didn't know it was in this bar. Genuinely, it was
the iced tea.
The iced tea.
How many pints had you had?
No, we'd had no drink. I swear, honestly, it was the most unbelievable thing. Ask any of the boys, like your boys, James McFadden, Naismith, Davey Weir, they'd have all been there. Iced tea comes out. No one. We weren't going to a bar to see iced tea. We didn't know we'd be there. It was a random thing. It was a busy bar. We went past. Let's go there.
Yeah.
So like you do. So we stopped up. Iced tea comes out. He's kind of overseeing this battle of the mic night. So there's loads of people coming from all over. He was MCing, but there was...
Was he singing as well?
Because he did a little bit as well. But we didn't expect him... Because we were in there for like 20 minutes and all these guys were going, he'd probably been on beforehand and we had been none the wiser. He comes out, he's introducing. We were like, one of those surreal things. You're in Bangkok and iced tea comes out onto the stage and he's introducing all these people. Yeah. So that was another experience of pre-season, which was quite funny. So
I think I always felt Far East was a horrible travel. Yeah. I could never sleep, and I know even these days, a lot of managers don't want to go to the Far East because it does mess up your rhythm.
Yes.
And you're trying to go there, you're trying to bond, you're trying to increase fitness, but you want to make sure that as you come back, usually from a pre-season trip, you're getting into the really important friendlies that set you up for the season. So, for me, the Far East, I remember that trip to Malaysia. I was absolutely miserable. Actually, I don't even think I played a minute.
How did you start the season off the back of that? We started really poorly off the back of Thailand.
Yeah,
I don't know whether that had something to do with it or not, but it definitely affected me.
I don't think we started great. I think what happened was we went to Malaysia, and I'd had a couple of issues with Sir Bobby Robson at the time. I was going to move and ended up signing an extra year, and I don't think he was too happy that I'd been trying to move and go to another team. And so when I got there, I remember feeling really unwelcome in a way, which was horrible because I'd never really felt like that at Newcastle.
You'd been on loan as well, hadn't you?
Yeah, I'd been on loan, but I was kind of been in the first team the season before. Then I was going to move. The move never happened, so I kind of had to go back to Newcastle. They gave me worse terms. They gave me a year. So there was this animosity there. And Bobby and I were probably butting heads for the first time, really. And
within that, Steve, as well, they feel like you're gone.
Yeah.
You feel like you're gone. So it's such
weird.
a bad situation for any player like that, isn't it?
And I remember going, and I remember being miserable. I remember hardly sleeping. We were training hard. And as I mentioned, Birmingham and Chelsea were there, and they were just treating it as a sort of fun type trip. You know, they were at the pool and they were relaxing. Bobby had us in 2-a-days and blistering heat and humidity. It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And so I was tired. I was not sleeping at night. I never played a minute. And I remember Gary Speed, the late great Gary Speed, saying to me, "It's a disgrace that you never played a minute." So I really felt as a young player that it was an awful one. So I've got I think it was the only time I went to the Far East on a pre-season trip. So I've got miserable memories of that one, Kev. That was not a good one for me at all.
I did China one year, I think, when I was at Hull. We did China again, but again, coming back was still that real...
Was that more a commercial trip, or...
Yeah,
do you feel like the Far East ones are more for, the club
Premier
and
League
commercial
Cup?
game?
Was it Premier League Trophy, Premier League Cup? I can't remember. It's still going now, I think, at times. But that's what essentially it is. It's because somebody's funding to have 3 or 4 different Premier League sides go over and play in a small little round-robin tournament. And that's where it's about, commercially for the club, it means so much to them because of how much revenue that's going to bring in. So you do feel a bit more pressure in those. You do. You're away from the spotlight. Say, when we went to Houston was very different because I think it was Pachuca we played.
Yeah.
We played him it was just, the stadium had just been built at the time where the Texans play now. What's
Energy.
It called? Yes. So
it's unbelievable, isn't it?
Amazing stadium, amazing stadium.
You played Pachuca there?
Roof was closed, They annihilated us. Now, bearing in mind, we'd had a few nights out off the back of it going to play against Pachuca. It was like a 90% possession game, totally dominated, and we ended up getting a draw. I think we scored from a set piece. Big Stubbsy or Davy Weir went up for a corner and scored. We got a draw out of the game, and it was just... But we went back, I think, in a different frame of mind, I think, from that trip. Not just from the bit of bonding time we had together, because we had a small squad, but more so the fact was that we were under pressure and we developed a bit of a siege mentality when we went there. We developed a mentality of they're not going to break us now.
Yeah.
Maybe the fans were against us a little bit to an extent. But they wanted change at the club because they saw Rooney going. They saw no money being reinvested into the side. They were obviously and clearly upset with the way that things were being run. A little bit of pressure on David Moyes, as I said. That summer brought us together, and we ended up finishing 4th. We qualified for the Champions League off the back of that season, and it was an incredible season to be part of that, but also it was, where did it stem from? And it definitely stemmed from Houston.
So what's more important on these trips, the training or the bonding?
Obviously the training to an extent, because you've got to... I mean, I'll answer that question in a sec. I remember my first ever pre-season though, Stevie, when I came out of school at 16. I just turned 16, and you're going into an environment where you just don't know what to expect. And it blew my...
But you're anxious then, aren't you, as a young player?
And it was so hard. I remember... I'm going to have to up my game here in so many different ways, because fitness levels were above and beyond. Just playing youth football, youth soccer was never even, remotely comparable with professional football. So you're around pros, although you're not professional. I was like the old style YTS as it was over there in England. But seeing the way that the guys trained and how fit they were, you're a mile off it. The odd time, because you maybe... I wasn't pushing for the first team at that time, but you might get introduced. They might introduce 1 or 2 youth players I was so far away from the pros. And Preston at the time were the old Division 3, League 2 as it is now, the lowest professional tier in England. I was so far off the level in every department, technically, and maybe not technically, but definitely physically and mentally, or whatever barometer you're going to use.
I think it is mental. I think trying to keep up when you're a young boy, when you're training that hard, and you've got a lot going on, and you're expending a lot of energy mentally as well, aren't you? Because you're trying to figure out where you fit, where you sit, how you get in the team, how you're impressing the head coach. So it's a difficult scenario to go in as a youngster, and as the days go on. So if you go to Austria or Holland or wherever you go, US, wherever, Far East, as the days go on, when you're a young guy, you start to feel it more and more, don't you?
Yes.
And by the end of the trip, you're exhausted, aren't you? You're almost like your body's breaking down. Is that how you felt? I definitely felt that in a few of my early pre-season trips.
I felt it, and you're a boy, aren't you? Your body's not developed, nowhere near developed at that time. So you're a boy, essentially, of trying to compete with senior pros that had been 10 or 15 years doing that, so they knew how to cope with it. You're all over the place. As you said, you're nervous because you're trying to impress, but also you want to make sure that you're right, and you don't know what to do. That first 2 or 3 years as a youngster certainly set me up for the rest of my career. So it was an interesting one. I can't remember the question you asked me before as well about. I can't remember. We've moved on from it.
Is it training or bonding is more important?
As I got older, I absolutely
it's
recognized.
It's a balance, isn't it?
You see, when you get. As I said, David Moyes had a contrast of the old and the new, and I think he's definitely moved on to the modern way of thinking, and he allows his fitness coaches and his nutritionists and everything to take over, and he certainly recognised that fact. But I think him as a manager and recognising people understands what it takes to get the best out of you across the 38 games or whatever. And it isn't going to be about how fit you are. It's not going to come down to that at the end of the season. It's going to come about how you're connecting with each other on and off the field. That side of it is totally overlooked. And I think all the sports science departments are all
took a bit away from it.
No, but I think they're fully clued in. They understand.
You need the balance,
about
the good ones.
But I would say they understand totally what it takes to get your body prepared, and it's about physically how you're ready. I don't think they fully understand of the other side and the mental side of what it takes to go across a season. When you lose 5 on the bounce, and what's happening when you lose 5 on the bounce? You need each other more than ever then. You're getting slaughtered from the crowd. The crowd are on top of you. You can't, you're in that moment. And I think that the good sports science departments and teams recognise what's needed. It's not always about the running, the physical side, and about how you're topping up and how you get into a certain levels. It's about maybe fundamentals of togetherness and what you need to get yourself through.
I think the whole idea is that you come back for the trip in better physical shape, or peak physical shape, but also with an exuberance and a sort of excitement from the trips. You've had the bonding, but you've also got fitter. You have to have that balance, because what you don't want is for the trip to be negative, and you're coming back into the UK, back to your club environment, your training ground, and you're feeling deflated for the trip. Like we went one to Ruud Gullit took us to Holland one year. And
Holland, they had a good few trips to Holland as well, and Belgium, sorry.
So we come into the meal room on the first day. There's dry pasta, rice. He's took the sauces out the pasta. He's no ketchup on the tables. And, it was like perfect to the letter in terms of... But the guys were miserable. Nobody wanted to eat. And I remember being a youngster in that environment, listening to Shearer and to Shay Given and Steve Harper, and Rob Lee, Gary Speed, these guys, Warren Barton, the guys that I would, kind of sit around the table with, and they were just absolutely miserable. He promised us a night out in the end, but it was a half-hearted night out. And we were training hard, and we had a guy, I don't know if you remember this name, Frank Dumas.
Frank Dumas, yes.
He played for Monaco. We signed him from Monaco. He was a middle of a three guy. He's more of a libero-type player. He was not a marker. He was only 5'9", 5'10" for a centre-back. And Frank was there. Frank was the coolest guy in the world. He was just so relaxed. And I remember how anxious I was and how much on the ceiling I was in terms of trying to impress a manager and burst my way into a first team and things like that. And I went to Frank's room for something, and he was sitting, I'll never forget, he was sitting there in the bed in his underpants, just sitting back, hands behind his head, cigarette in his hand, window open, just having a cigarette, totally relaxed about everything. Hey, don't worry about anything. I remember thinking, I want to get to that stage. He's 30-something at the time. I'm 19 or whatever, 18. And I'm like, that's where I want to get to. And to your point earlier, the experiences you go through from these different pre-seasons, they get you to that point. Not that I was ever sitting back in my bed having a cigarette, but you have a relaxed feeling around pre-season, and you know that you have to hit certain markers. And I know we've joked, in all honesty, we are joking about going out and nights out, and it is part of it. But, you have to be fitter. You have to have some fun.
Yeah.
You have to bond with some guys, and you have to get your team in a good place that when you come back, you're ready to attack the season.
Yeah.
That's the key, isn't it?
It is the absolute key, and I think the good coaches, managers recognise that. And I know the modern day football has absolutely moved away from that as well. And I think it's the detriment mentally to the players. I think to an extent. And detriment to the team as well because of what it meant. They were the best days of your life when you're getting out with the guys. They were just so good, and to be part of those environments were just the best to me as well. Yeah. You can contrast it as well, coming towards the end of my career as well, Stevie, when I finished up my Premier League career actually at Hull, and we got relegated from the Premier League, and following season or whatever it would be, you kind of getting a feeling they want me out here.
Right.
You're coming back for pre-season. You're turning
you're
up.
a big earner.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that.
Big wages. Get Kilbane off the wage bill.
I don't know about that.
Definitely.
But I didn't have a relegation clause. But so what happened was, I think, that you recognise you're going out. You're coming back for pre-season, knowing that you're not wanted. And how do you approach that season? What do you do? It isn't a great environment to be part of, and it's a funny one, I think, to me, that I would have constantly been focused throughout my career on. I would like to think that any manager I would have played under would have said, look, you're reliable to do whatever I asked of you, but what you brought to training every single day was 100% effort, the maximum effort.
Raise the standards.
Yeah, I would like to think that would have been the case. Whether I was good or bad in training, whatever I would have been.
You had an intensity.
An intensity about me that I would have made sure in myself that I'm giving everything I've got.
Yeah.
So within that, you come back and you're not wanted. That's the hardest thing I felt as a pro towards the end, that it was, you're not wanted here. How can you raise your levels knowing full well it's irrelevant whether I am 10 out of 10 every single day? It's irrelevant. That's where that selfishness comes in.
Self-discipline, isn't it?
Selfishness for yourself. You have to be so disciplined that
it's horrible.
It's irrelevant what anyone thinks about you. Because you're going to move somewhere, someone's going to take you. If you're not in the right physical condition, the right mental state, you're not going to be able to produce wherever you go. And that's where... It's an interesting point, isn't it? It is an interesting
you have to
one.
be so focused at that point. It actually gets me thinking about a Canadian international, Ismael Kone, who's in that position. He's training on his own at Marseille. Some video came out this week of him, his bust up. There's been a documentary made on Marseille that's out now. And there's video of a training ground bust up with the Zerbi where they're screaming at each other and he's walking off training. So, as we know, from last season when he went out on loan, there's a break in that relationship.
He's not wanted.
Now he's training on his own. So
he's training with the second team, I believe, isn't he, as well?
So what does he have to do? Is he just got to stay ultra focused? We know he's got to get his move, but as you said,
Steve, I think
he can't afford not to give the effort.
Genuinely, I think the position that he's in, I think he's got to train harder. I think if he's training twice a day, I think he's got to be doing sessions on his own in the evening or the morning before he's going training. So he has got to now just be fully focused on himself, so selfish and so single-minded on if and when I move, I am in physically the best condition possible for me just to step into someone else's training ground or step into the team, starting 11, and I will actually be better than the other 9 outfield players that I'm going to be lining up against. That would be my mentality off the back of that. Train hard regardless, almost in spite of what the manager's thoughts are. You have to train in spite of the club, in spite of the manager. And that's the mentality I think you've got to have. You said it before with it. If you don't have that sort of mentality and that real wanting to get better and better, he's still a young boy. I mean, we mentioned before about the amount of game time that he's had or lack of game time that he's had throughout his career, the lack of 90 minutes he's played, considering the age that he's at now and the profile that he's got as a player and the standing that he's got. He has to be just single-mindedly focused, Stevie, on I don't care what people think of me. And if he has that, then he'll be okay. He'll be okay for the rest of his career. Yeah,
it's a tough one. I totally agree with you. I think that he's got to think of the bigger picture, and the idea is that if he is going to land somewhere else, we're hoping it's a top league and a top club. He can't afford to get there behind the rest of the players. So even if he's with the reserves or he's on his own, whatever the scenario is, he's with younger guys that are probably not up to his level.
And mentally, Stevie, as well. you're gone. He's not getting. We spoke of before what's important about the importance around pre-season, the bonding. He's not getting.
He's not getting it. He won't get that.
Because he's not part of that team.
Yeah.
So this is where I find it so interesting. The one thing I mentioned going back to when I first started pre-season, another aspect of it as well was recognising how quickly a player is discarded from a club.
Yeah.
Training with my youth team at the time, there was 6 or 7 pros that weren't wanted by the manager. You're done. You're not wanted here. You're coming down. And I have to say, a lot of the attitude that came to train with us wasn't great.
Yeah.
They were just so lax. They weren't bothering about, almost messages. Sam Allardyce was my youth team manager at the time, messing up his training sessions. He's trying to prepare us for a career in the game.
Right.
And very few are going to go and have a career.
Yeah.
And you've got senior pros coming down with the wrong attitude, the wrong attitude to Sam Allardyce and the wrong attitude to us and themselves. So everything starts to fall apart around that. And that's the frustrating thing for a manager. And this is where I look at Ismael Kone and it's so... These are the fundamentals of your life, how you're going to discipline yourself in every aspect.
Totally agree.
But he has got to be the best trainer, I feel, going in every day with the mindset, I've got to be the best trainer, the best player on that field every single day, without doubt.
And he has to show that mental resilience to be ready to go, even although I'm sure there's going to be many times that he's frustrated with the situation. So wherever he's going to be training, it's about the bigger picture. I don't think he should grab the first loan move. He's still got to make the right, or permanent, whatever it may be. He's still got to make the right move to whatever club that he goes to. He can't afford to just want to get out of that scenario and go anywhere.
Well, you mentioned that though last week. You mentioned Roma about the perfect fit for him.
Yeah.
Is, how quickly does that... I mean, obviously, you think naturally it needs to happen quickly, but is that the place that you feel as though that he is going to be welcome and going to be part of something special as a club-wise?
I'm not certain he's welcome there. I don't know enough for the ins and outs, but what I like about Roma is what a great football club, great size of club, a club that I think he can prosper in. And the biggest point I think that would be good for Ismael Kone in Roma is Gasperini.
Yeah.
Because I think Gasperini is a coach that we've seen, where it's Ademola Lookman or some of the guys that are in Atlanta, the guys that he's coached throughout his career, all get better because they play and train under him. So I believe that he would be a great mentor for Kone. He would bring aspects to his game that are missing at the minute, that he needs, that we know if the lad finds, he's going to be an outstanding player.
Do you think he can afford to wait for that move, though? Or does he need to get out quicker? Can he sit around till end of August or whatever it'll be, till the transfer window closes?
I think he might have to, Kev, because if it's a permanent one, he was 15 million euros.
Yeah.
So they're going to want to try and recoup as much of that as possible, Marseille. Now, if you were Roma, you'd be offering 3 or 4, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
So there's probably a big gap in the price tag. And this is probably going to be a game, if it is permanent, maybe there's a way that they do another loan and they can retain some of the value of Marseille by loaning him again and hoping that he does well. But at the moment, I think there's going to be a big discrepancy in the price tag. And Kone might have to be patient, and it might even not even be in his hands. It might be club to club. So I don't think he should rush at the first one. I don't think he should panic too much. But that gets back to your point. He then has to be training at the highest of levels.
And he's young, still young, essentially. In the game, he's still quite young. This is his first experience of this happening to him. He's probably seen other players. I'm sure when he signed for Marseille last summer, there was players in his position now that he finds himself in. So maybe he has to learn and talk to other guys. You would hope that his agent's speaking to him. You would hope he's got some senior pros he can rely on, that he can actually go and confide in them properly and ask them those questions. Well, what do I do here? Because of that inexperience that he brings. Yeah,
and you learn all the time in this game. It's not always during the good times. It's very rarely during the good times, actually, is it?
You're going to lose, or you're going to have bad times more than the good, aren't you? Unless you're at the very, very top, you're going to have more bad than good. So how do you cope with that? You know?
Well, we just hope to see him somewhere soon, and we hope that he's going to be ready when he gets here, and he doesn't need to take a month or two to get up to speed. But we wish him all the best, and let's get to some questions, will we?
This is the Park the Bus podcast with Stephen Caldwell and Kevin Kilbane.
Okay, here we go. 3 big questions. First one I've got for you is, Does Marcus Rashford deserve the move that he's just got to Barcelona?
Oh, that's a good... You love these opening questions, don't you? You come out with these straight off the bat. Look, first off, I was so surprised that Barcelona had made such a play to get him. It looked like it was on the cards last year, but even before he moved to Aston Villa.
Yeah.
It looked like that it was Barcelona, and he wanted Barcelona because there was obviously some serious negotiations that went into that deal going ahead at that time. So Barcelona's interest has been firm for a long time. Surprising in my mind, because of what he's done. If you look at Man United where they are, Man United finished, 17th, 16th in the Premier League last season? Yeah. It's unheard of to think that. Man United finishing so low in the Premier League. Marcus Rashford couldn't fit into whether it be Ten Hag or, what's the current coach called now? That's how bad it is. Ruben Amorim, yeah. So, he's not wanted by the club. Yeah. So, clearly he's bringing nothing day-to-day on the training ground. Clearly he's bringing nothing on the match day. So for him not to be wanted, for him to go to a club of such stature, that's remarkable to me. It's absolutely remarkable. And Marcus Rashford probably hasn't showed his best for 2 or 3 seasons now. Would that be fair to say?
Easy, yeah.
So we're not in a position.
But his best is high. That's what I'll say. So
yeah, that's true.
Are they looking at his career historically in terms of when he broke in and?
Is he still elite? Do you think?
Well, that's kind of what I'm angling at. Are they sort of thinking that they can get him back to that?
It's a loan move, so
level.
That probably suits Barca.
And it's a safe move for Barca because I'm assuming Manchester United are still paying the lion's share of his wages because they don't want him anywhere near the football club, which is very unusual for a Manchester United youngster to be discarded so much. But there must have been something in his attitude over the last 2 or 3 seasons. Yeah. His form has clearly deteriorated. And Amorim is a hard taskmaster. He wants him out the building. Barcelona have got a good deal and they probably feel like they can get him back to his best. Now, we saw glimpses of it at Villa, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
We saw him play decent at times. I wouldn't say he was spectacular, but he was decent at times. And I think...
But Villa, and it's not being disrespectful to Villa, the scrutiny level of playing for Aston Villa as opposed to playing to Barcelona is... It's a different level. It is a different level from where he's going to be. Scrutiny day in, day out. Because there's 2,000 or 3,000 that go and watch those guys on the training ground every day. Not even the game, the 80,000, 90,000 that they're going to have week in, week out. So the scrutiny on him now, and you mentioned before, and I said as well, but not necessarily at his best for 2 or 3 years at least.
Yeah.
I'd understand Barcelona move if he had shown his best 6 months ago, and he was 6 months out of form, and he's for whatever reason he hadn't been able to produce. But this is a long time since he's been at his very best. At his very best. So for him to go to the level of the odd game at Aston Villa, because Aston Villa, in fairness to them, they can't afford
to only got to 2 goals at Aston Villa.
Yeah, and he scored a couple of cup goals, didn't he? There were cup goals that he scored. I think it was Preston actually. I watched the game, and so you're seeing Rashford here now, and he's going from 2 or 3 years out of real form to go to Barcelona where he's expected to be at Lamine Yamal's level.
Yeah.
So
does he play in their best team?
That's a good question as well.
Doubt it.
It's unlikely.
Yeah.
If they have got a Champions League quarter semi-final and they've got to pick their best side, it's unlikely he's going to start the game. That's the way you'd probably look at it, isn't it?
I think so. I don't think he plays in their best team, but I think he's got a chance, he's got a platform to get towards his best form. If he gets to his best form, then it's a different story. But it's the question is, can he get back there, or is it too far gone, for Rashford? But he definitely wanted this move, and he was pushing hard for it for a while now. And best of luck to him. I'd like to see him back to his best. There's something in Rashford that I've always enjoyed, and when he's at his best, he can be sensational.
I was actually at his debut game. When he scored in the Europa League, I think it was, under Van Gaal, and his debut against Arsenal where he scored 2. I was at those 2 games.
I remember the Arsenal one,
So I witnessed his debut and his Premier League debut start when he scored goals. So it was nice to see the start of him, knowing the talent that he's got. We've seen some great moments from Rashford. He's just... As I said, I just think it's been too far gone now for him, for me, in my opinion, to get back to the level of Barcelona.
Fair enough.
Let's just wait and see. I got a good one for you here, Stevie, as well. Get your old hat on here as well now. Is Newcastle United big enough to hold on to Alexander Isak?
It's a ridiculous question, isn't it?
Why?
Of course they're big enough.
Are they?
Newcastle United, Champions League football, coming off their first trophy in 70 years.
Yeah.
Saw the ownership, got the money. Yes, they're trying to get a structure within place within the club that they can utilise and spend the money better because of PSR. But absolutely a club for me that can be at the very top of English football.
Well, it's not ridiculous. Yeah, can be at the very top.
Yeah.
Potential Liverpool move for him, or at the very top. I think Newcastle are quite a long way off getting to Liverpool's level.
You think a long way?
I think they're a long way. I do think so.
I don't.
Do you know? Well,
no.
Well, here's what I think on it, Stevie. I think qualify for the Champions League. At best for them, I think they replicate what Aston Villa did last year, which is good. So I don't think they're going to get to...
So you think they're going to struggle with the size of the squad that they are to compete in the Champions League and the Premier League?
Yes, I do. Yeah. And the Premier League, when they qualified for the Champions League, 2 years ago now, they struggled to get back to that level, didn't they? They struggled to get back to Champions League level. They had the big night against PSG, don't forget as well. Remember that, where they were so good at St James's Park. But if you look at how the season went for them that year in the Premier League, they did struggle because of how they could cope with both tasks. Now, getting back in the Champions League, you would feel, or I think they've got to spend, they've got to get a lot more into that.
And there's not been a lot of spending yet.
No,
only
Longstaff left.
Longstaff
so you think,
left. 10 million of pure profit because he was an academy guy that came through the club. So that's decent for the books. But they spent a lot on Elanga. Another wide guy. What are they missing? What do you think they need?
Well, I think they've certainly depth is absolutely there as well. There's what they need. Depth is a huge thing, I think, probably if you're going to be able to compete on both levels. But the one thing I'd look at with Isak, and I don't know what you're thinking on it as well, I think that it's not so much the writings on the wall, but when a manager leaves a player out of a pre-season game and publicly states he's been left out due to transfer speculation, but I think he's finished off that statement, Eddie Howe, the Newcastle head coach, with, but I expect him to stay. But when you're being left out, you've had a conversation with the player. Where are you mentally? Yeah. Mentally, Alexander Isak I want to go home, I want to leave this football club. That's where Alexander Isak is. Now, that might not be the official statement coming out. Yeah. Whether or not he wants a new contract, potentially down the line. I
think it's hasty to say that he wants to leave, but he's certainly unhappy. And it could be two things for me. It could be three things. He could want to leave. He could want bigger wages. Yeah. If somebody's bidding 120 million for you, you want to be paid like the highest earners in the world. You want to be getting Haaland money, which reportedly is 600, 700, 800 grand a week.
Yes.
Can Newcastle do that? That's a big if. And then the ambition of the club. He wants to win trophies. Yeah. And you've just said to me you feel like with the Champions League and the Premier League, they're going to be miles away of really competing in either of the competitions. He wants to know that Newcastle United can match his ambition of winning Champions League trophies, Premier League trophies. Liverpool can. Yeah. I absolutely agree with that. But if Newcastle can show that to him and can provide evidence that they will sign the biggest players and get the best guys in, and give him a chance to do that at Newcastle, I think he wants to still stay around for that. But I think at the moment there's a bit of uncertainty around how can they spend this money? How can they... I don't know how Chelsea have done it. They've managed to sign players, big players, and spend the money, and they've managed to, I guess, give them these long-term contracts. Surely there's a way for Newcastle to do the same when the money's there but PSR's preventing them. They need to find a way of getting 4, 5, 6 guys in the next, 5 weeks have we got to go? Maybe 5, 6 weeks.
But I'm not one to judge pre-season results too much, and good and bad. If you could go away and win 5-0, Celtic beat them at the weekend, beat Newcastle 4-0.
Celtic are ready for a Champions League qualifier.
And it's a big but, I think, within this. With Isak being left out of that team, clearly that message has gone round the dressing room as well now. Now, I'm not going to judge the result, and that's genuine. For Newcastle, Celtic have got to be ahead because they've got bigger games.
2-3 weeks ahead in preparation.
So that's fine. But Isak being left out has got to affect that dressing room, Stevie. It's got to affect the locker room, without a doubt, because of what Isak has brought to that team and how influential he's been for that club. And he has been the talisman. He has been the main player over the last number of seasons for them now. when this Liverpool interest has come about, this has solidified more so in the last year, hasn't it? That Liverpool's interest is real. They want to sign him.
He's always brilliant against Liverpool as well.
There you go.
He's the one guy that really, I think, frightens Van Dijk.
This is with him being pulled out of the weekend. It might seem like a small thing, and it can be. It's retrievable.
But
I'm not saying
we've seen that has been the start, the seed of something that comes.
And that crack becomes almost.
I hope not.
That's where I would look at with this, Stevie. That's the thing.
Yeah, I hope not. And I'm sure there's a lot of Newcastle fans that feel the same. But there is a concern.
Do you think he stays?
I think he stays. I think 100%. 100%.
Yeah. What? And signs a new deal?
I think they'll give him a new deal.
Yeah.
I think they'll pay him the money that he deserves. Yeah. He's got 3 years left in his contract, so Newcastle
no problem in the
don't
dressing
need to
room.
sell. No, I
welcome
think,
back by teammates.
I think
issues.
There's some rumblings of things going on. I think the fact he never travelled to Glasgow was certainly something.
Yeah, that's the sort of thing annoys you.
Joe Linton never played.
If you were captain of Newcastle, how would you feel there?
Yeah, I'd be unhappy, but also players stick together. Players understand that this is a short life and you're trying to maximise. I mean, these guys are multi-millionaires, but you're trying to earn as much as you can. So if he is
win
angling
as much
for
as you can.
Yeah, and if he's
Liverpool are
angling
in a
for
better position, as I go back to my original point of winning.
But I don't believe that he.
The big trophies. That's what I'm saying.
But I don't think this is about him trying to get to Liverpool this summer. I'll say that.
Right.
I think it's about him trying to push his club to pay him better and to invest more in other players. That's what I think. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
He might be angling for the move, and if he is angling for the move, it spells big trouble for Newcastle.
So in answer to that, then, you think Newcastle are big enough to
yes,
big
enough.
They're a big enough club for Alexander.
Of course I do.
Yeah. Okay.
I think they're going to challenge for the Premier League this year.
Oh, good man.
Get back to that one in future weeks.
Yeah. Well, we'll do that in 2 weeks when the Premier League's about to start.
Last question I've got for you. Should Caldwell stay in La Liga, or, as been rumoured, and there's been some rumblings, even TFC, his local environment, come back to MLS for guaranteed minutes? What do you think? Should he stay in La Liga or potentially come back to North America?
Right, let's answer the question to start with. If he's going to be guaranteed game time in Spain, stay in Spain, 100%. Even if it's 20 games this season, to play in Spain, and the prestige of playing in La Liga is absolutely there. But if he's not, on the flip side of that is he needs game time ahead of next summer. And
can that be guaranteed in a league like La Liga and a team like Mallorca?
No, that's a difficulty.
So he's got to get his game there, doesn't he?
And we talk about, we've spoken about it recently, I think, haven't we? When you get to the end of your career, or towards the end of your career, he's hitting age now. What's Carl Larry's 30, 31, is he?
Yeah, I think so, early 30s.
You start to think about maximising the financial side of it and how much you can earn now till the end of your career. Now, if it is a viable option potentially to come back to TFC and play week in, week out. Now, it's not the answer for TFC. I'll maybe address that one in a second. But for him personally to come back and play week in, week out, I think is important. But if he comes back, he has to score goals. That's the thing.
When you're 30-year-old, you think about the end. You start thinking about the end of your career, don't you? You're trying to get to 35. If you can get more years than that, it's a bonus. But for me, it was always trying to get to 35. Catalan, 30-year-old, it's certainly going to be coming into his thinking. But I don't believe, unless Mallorca are desperate to lose him and there's no other options in Europe, he should leave Europe. I think he should stay there as long as he can. The move to come back to MLS will still be there in 2 or 3 years' time, I believe, because of his history in Orlando, scoring goals. And
7 goals in the league last season. Do you think he's still at that level?
I think 7 goals for the stats that he had is not too bad. I think if you're scoring goals in La Liga, it's probably only for a striker, in my opinion, the Premier League's the only harder league to score goals in. It's a decent return, and he was in a half-decent team. I don't know what they finished, 6th or 7th in the end, Mallorca, but they were in the hunt for Champions League for a while. They were in the hunt for trophies. He's at a good club. Why would you leave? Why would you come back to MLS? But he's got to play minutes and he's got to find his best form, because Cal Larney at his best is a top player. He's a certain starter for me for Canada at his best. But he's not been at his best, has he, for a while,
No, it's true. That's fair to say.
So is that because he's not getting the rhythm that he needs from playing time in Mallorca, or is it because he's just zipped a little bit and he's getting to the other side of his career?
No, I don't think it is that. he's not. He's dipped in terms of form, but I don't think he's
over the hill.
Yeah, I don't think he's over the hill.
Yeah.
If I was TFC, Stevie, I would now be thinking in my head, look, this is a guy. He's a Canadian lad. Let's get him in. And you know, break the bank. If I look, we've done.
We need to break the bank.
Yeah, we've done TFC.
Spend a lot of money.
Well, they've done that in the past. But what I would say to you here, Steve, we've done TFC in the last couple of games. I think now they've got the issue of Bernardeschi and Insigne sorted. They've got it done and dusted now. It's out the door. So now we can, if you're a TFC fan, you can move on. If you're part of that board, you can move on. But I look at the roster itself, Stevie, and I think, who has sanctioned the deals that's gone into that team, Stevie? Sean Johnson is on around about $1 million a year. Rosted, $800,000 a year. Brynhildsen, the striker, is on $1.6 million a year, Stevie. Now, whoever sanctioned those moves to pay that amount of money... honestly, I don't think Sean Johnson's at the level. He's not been at the level for a number of years. I know he's a well-established MLS goalkeeper. Personally, I don't think he's good enough. And I think you've got... I think you've got other goalkeepers that you could play half that money and do a better job. And even Gavran that's in there now that's done quite well. I'm not saying he's at Sean Johnson's level, but it's not a huge drop-off. Rosted has been a terrible signing for TFC. To pay that amount of money for a centre-half who's not producing anywhere near the level good enough. And then throughout the side, there's a number of them. But I'm talking Brynhildsen up front.
Yeah.
You're paying him $1.6 million a year. Now, he's on loan.
They like Brynhildsen. They feel like he just needs a bit more time.
Not good enough. Well, you need... if you're going to rely on him, you need to get 2 or 3 others around him.
Yeah.
You can't just rely on Theo Corbiano to come in and produce the goals for him, because there's only
He's been the only real attacking threat in the last month,
exactly.
Yeah.
And you've got, throughout that side, players that are on so much money that are nowhere near the level. They're not good enough if they're talking about the defensive side of the game, and creativity, they're not good enough. So whoever, as I say, go back to that point, whoever sanctioned these moves within that side, they need to be seriously looked at, because as a whole, that recruitment team has been nowhere near good enough.
So let me ask you this. So we talked about Insigne and Bernardeschi going, and I know
we've moved on from Carl Larin a little bit here now, but I don't know. It's funny when you think about it.
But what I'm saying about that is that they spent a lot of money to get both the guys out the door. You've questioned the recruitment over the last little bit and the bloated roster, let's call it, with some of the wages. If you were the organisation that runs and owns TFC, would you hand this recruitment team millions to go and spend?
No, absolutely not, because you only look at the past. There's not been an awful lot of change to that recruitment team, has there? Now, you may be critical. Jason Hernandez is in there, and he can officially say that he's not been fully part of... Well, he wasn't fully part of the Insigne and the Bernardeschi.
That was Bill Manning.
Yeah, so you can't...
He was there, but Bill Manning made the call on these signings.
He was there, so he's still part of it. But he has been essentially a part of the recruitment process. So Jason Hernandez probably needs some other real guys around him that's going to help along that process. It takes you back to Carl Larin. You're asking the question, can you be fully trusted? Now, I think Carl Larin, personally, I think, yes, he's still got bits to prove coming back, a lot of money outlay, but I go back to those players that I mentioned before and the amount of money. So if you get 1 or 2 of those off the bill, I'd go and get Carl Larin. Personally, I would. But also, if you can get 3 or 4 of those off the roster and off that huge wage bill that they've got, and bring in 2 or 3 other with quality, they need pace injected into the side. That goes without saying. They need more creativity. But if they can bring a little bit more pace into the side, that's going to help somebody like Carl Larin and Theo Corbiano, I think there's enough. Watching them the last couple of games against San Diego and at the weekend then against Nashville, there's a lot to like about them.
Yeah, they're building something.
There's a lot to like about them.
Defensively, they've got it really solid at the minute.
Yeah, but there's still errors, isn't there? They don't like they're going to score.
No, they don't.
They don't like they're going to score a goal.
If they concede, it looks like the game's gone. But when they're in the game and it's 0-0, they're getting their chances. If they take the chance, then they look like they can hold out maybe a little bit these days.
And Carl Larin coming into that setup wouldn't work because there's not enough around him to create for Carl Larin.
No, I'm not sure he's the right profile for that team at the minute, because I agree with you, they badly need pace. But they got Brynhildsen thinking that he was pace. We know he's decent. He's got a bit of pace about him, but they can't get him in the right kind of positions that he needs to be in. And To be fair, Brynhilsen's never been fit. He's never been fit.
If I look at DP profile throughout the league or high money profile,
Jason Hernandez is going to get his chance to sign his DP, isn't he? You know, he is. He'll probably say, "Well, I'm working in 1.6 million is a lot of money, but it's not necessarily what a top striker in MLS gets." So he'll say that he wants his designated player, that he deserves his chance.
Should it be
Maybe it is, but he'll be judged on that. Hernandez will absolutely be judged on that, and if that doesn't work for him, then it'll be a tough situation, because then you will start adding up the Cassius Malula, I think, was a Hernandez signing.
Laren's a Toronto boy as well. So would it work for him going?
I don't know. Would it work for Jesse Marsch? Would he be happy to see Laren back in MLS if he's playing more consistently, or would he rather he was at the higher level of Spain?
Well, we've seen Swanier come back to LAFC. I'm sure Jesse Marsch is happy with that now, coming back in there. We've seen, obviously, other players coming back. Jayden Nelson's another one that's come back from Europe to come back into the Whitecaps side. I think the important thing for Jesse Marsch is players playing until the end of the season now. Now, you could absolutely make an argument, and I'd make the argument that playing for Mallorca and playing 20 games this season might be more beneficial for him. Just day to day, the intensity of the training, the quality of players that he's surrounded with would certainly help him. But, you know, if I'm looking at Kyle Laren selfishly, if I'd be Kyle Laren, I'm thinking longevity of career, contract value down the line, or however that's going to go. And I'm going to play week in, week out. I know I'm going to start. Might not necessarily finish a game every week, but I'm going to start a game every single week. That would have to be appealing to me, I would think.
Yeah, it probably is, and we'll keep an eye on it, because it'll rumble along here, won't it, that one? If does he come back? And I think at some point he's absolutely coming back to MLS, whether it's Toronto FC, we'll know within time. But I would stay in La Liga if I was him for the time being.
Okay, good point. Well done.
Thanks for your answers, mate. Enjoyed that. A good little debate as always. See you next week.
See you, mate. See you, mate.
This is the Park the Bus podcast with Stephen Caldwell and Kevin Kilbane.